Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Probably already know we are reviewing Stephen King's The Black House. Actually, I don't think it's called The Black House. I think it's just called Black House. Stephen King and Peter Straub, a collaboration. I reviewed their previous collaboration, The Talisman, maybe about a year ago. You can find that on the channel. In fact, if you've been following this channel, you know I've been rereading every single Stephen King novel in order of publication. We are to this one. Black House came out in 2002. Seems like it just came out yesterday. I don't know, man. We always review the covers, though, so let's talk about it. I got the hardcover, got the mass market paperback. I listened to this on audible.com. As I read through the book, I also listened on audible.com. The voice narrator was Frank Muller. He does a lot of Stephen King books for audible.com. Great voice actor. His storytelling chops are always great, so it's always a pleasure to listen to him. So we give him an A+ every time. And now let's talk about the covers. So this is the original cover for the book. Hardcover book. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. The hardcover. Pretty dope. Pretty slick. Pretty elegant. Looks real nice. It contrasts. A huge contrast. This is book 1, The Talisman. This is book 2, Black House. I mean, let's take a look at, this was written in the 80s. Wow, man, that's just some flashy 80s typeface. I mean, this screams 1980s horror novel. This is a little more subtle in its approach, a little more elegant in its approach, and although, I gotta tell you, I love both. I love both, and if they would have, had they gone this direction with this book, I wouldn't have complained, because this is pretty dope. I mean, look, it mirrors the backside, mirrors the front side, and the spine, and, you know, it's just... But anyway, I thought I would show you that contrast. We'll stick that one right there, since we're going to be talking a little bit about that one, too, as we talk about... So the hardcover cover is dope, and then when they released it in paperback, they kind of made it lame. Like, I'm going to tell you, just the paperback version of the cover is hella stupid in comparison. I mean, I see the differences. This looks just really super slick. This one just looks like they mailed it in, and I don't know why they just didn't repeat this. You can never can tell what publishers are going to do. You never can tell. But let's put this one over. Yeah, let's put that one there so we can talk about it. Okay, what is this bad boy about? Well, in The Talisman, the first book, first collaboration between Stephen King and Peter Straub, we've got Jack Sawyer. He's a young kid in this book. This book is very reminiscent of It and The Stand. Very, very reminiscent of those two books. Now, this one goes in an entirely different direction. It would remind people more of, say, Dr. Sleep or the Mr. Mercedes series. It's more of about mystery, murders, serial killers, and the police. 5-0. This one doesn't have any of that. This one's just kind of like an adventure through a parallel universe called the Territories. And our little guy, Jack Sawyer. Although that is a play, this is actually sort of an allegory, playoff, or a sort of a alternate universe history of the Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn. That's why it's Jack Sawyer, 13-year-old Jack Sawyer, goes into the Territories, a parallel universe. Kind of like a journey down the Mississippi River like Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer did, but through a parallel universe, almost with sort of characters that sort of parallel the Mark Twain story, and then, but it's in a parallel universe, and he's on a journey to save his mother. That's all I'm going to give you for the plot of that one. But anyway, 20 years later, our main character, Jack Sawyer, is now grown up. He remembers nothing of this. Memory is wiped blank, and now he is a retired, semi-retired LA, well, he's retired because he was an LA homicide detective. He's retired because he's decided to move shop from LA and move up to Wisconsin because it's a better place than California. Most places on the planet are better places than California nowadays. Let's just face it. California once used to be a paradise. I mean, I remember watching Chips and the Brady Bunch and all those great shows, the Three's Company, all those fantastic shows set in California. It was a paradise. Now it's a shit mix of nonsense and high taxes. That's why my Raiders moved to Vegas. Man, I just went off on a tangent. But the Raiders are able to sign better players now because the players are like, I don't have to pay that California state tax. I can just play in Vegas and there ain't no tax. And I get to keep a hell of a lot more of my salary. Thus, California sucks. And I would move out of there too if I was a retired homicide detective, and I would move to Wisconsin, just like Jack Sawyer. See how I tied that all in? Anyway, so he gets to Wisconsin, and he thinks he's going to be retired, but then there's a string of serial killings and gruesome murders. And the local police there decide, hey, let's sort of recruit this homicide detective from LA because he got lots more experience than us podunk, small town, police do. Let's get the LA homicide detective on a case. And so he's like, okay, I'll join a case. And as he's working this case of homicide, and there's this black house, there's a haunted house, there's a lot of things. It's called the Black House, and we'll get to that in a second. But he starts to have these visions, right? He starts to have these visions of robin eggs and red sparrows and different things. And he's like, man, something's up with my head. Am I going crazy? Or is there some parallel universe out there? And then, of course, there is, because we know it is. The reader knows it is because we read it in the Talisman. We know what happened in this book, and so things are starting to, things from this book are starting to rain down into this book, and he's drawn back into the territories. There's murders in Wisconsin, but our main guy Jack is getting drawn back into the territories, where he had to parallel universe, and then, there's this haunted house out in the woods of Wisconsin, the Black House. Anyway, that's basically the plot of the whole thing. I don't think we need to get into it any more than that, because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be straight up honest with you. These two books, they're not my two favorite Stephen King things. I can't remember what rating I gave this one. I think it was slightly above average. This one's going to be also slightly above average, but I mean, most Stephen King things are just at the level of brilliance for me. I love everything that he does. And this one is just a little bit more disappointing. This Black House is a little bit more disappointing than the Talisman, and I thought the Talisman was kind of a little bit more disappointing than most of other Stephen King things. So I am giving this just, and maybe it's because it's a collaboration, and I will admit, I am a little bit jaded about collaborations. I just don't know if I really am sold on a lot of them. If I see that two authors have written a book, I usually avoid. There's a few. They're like the Expanse series by S.A. Corey is a collaboration between Ty Frank and Daniel Abraham, and there's a few others in here that I've got in my library. I've got a vast library. I mean, I've got every Stephen King book in hardcover right there. Plus, we've got like 5,000 other books in the library. But not many collaborations between different authors, because I just don't like them. Not to say that this isn't a good book. Like I said, I'm rating it slightly above average. So we're going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. Still an enjoyable book to read. Stephen King fans need to have it in their collection. It is a must-have. Well, if you're a Stephen King fan and you don't have every single one of his books in your collection, you're not a Stephen King fan. Black House, 6.5 out of 10. Worth the read. Worth the read. You're going to be entertained. For my money, though, like most of his other stuff,